So continuing on from the last video, we talked about plug and play, gave a quick overview. We're now going to do a quick demonstration and show how this works and how to set it up to onboard your first device. So this is the test bed we're going to use. So let me just talk about the workflow so that it's clear from the outset what we're trying to achieve. So the screen here is showing the plug and play screen in the DNA Centre. I'm actually claiming this device. What that does is this opens up this workflow where we assign various attributes. The first thing we assign is the site. Now, for there to be a site to assign the device to, we have to have first created the site and mapped a profile to the site. And as you can see here, this is an example of the site profile with the site being mapped to it. And how does that work? Well, first we have to create a profile which has the template assigned to it before we can assign it to the site, before the site is eligible to assign to the plug and play profile. But before we can do this, we need to first of all create the template and write the template attributes. So that's kind of the reverse flow from where we're trying to get to. Plug and play is assigned to a site, sites are mapped to the profiles, and then profiles are mapped to the templates. So we'll build this in the reverse order. We'll build our templates, our sites will tie it together with the profiles, and then we'll provision everything with the plug and play process. So I'll flick back to this slide when I feel it's useful, because it provides a good visual reference. So over to the DNA Centre itself then. So here we are running version 131. And I have my ASR 1001, which is actually just booted and it's waiting to onboard via plug and play. I'm just hunting for the version here. Next one, there we are, 16.9.3. So to start at the end, we will be in the provision devices in the plug and play screen. So we've had a device call in, which is this device here, and wants to onboard. However, we can also set these jobs up in advance. So we can add a device. We can input the serial number. So this is an expected device that's coming into the network. The product ID is 1001 HX. And then a device name, and this device name is going to be the host name that's applied to the device. Now we can only do this if we know these variables in advance. So if you were to place an order and you know what the serial number of the device is going to be, you can pre-populate this data in this table. And how this helps is you can then add and claim, and then you can go through the workflow where you assign a device to the site. The site then maps to a configuration profile. So here we're seeing this template has been selected. In the next screen, we get the option to define the variables that are assigned to that template. We'll get to that when we get to the template screen. And then you can look at the summary before you finally deploy it. It's not letting me move on because I haven't filled in all the blanks. There we are. It should go green, and then I can progress forward. And then I can click on the device name and I can have a look at the configuration preview, the day 0 configuration that's going to be pushed, the template CLI configuration that's going to be pushed. So as discussed on this screen already, this information that I populated in that plug and play job was already present. What we'll now do is we will go and build a fresh plug and play job with a new site to show you how to piece that together. So you can see that's now sat and waiting. If I'd have clicked save, that would have been in a planned state rather than unclaimed. I'm just going to delete him. So the first task of the device workflow, if you remember, if I click claim, is to select a site. So we have to first define a site to add the device to. And this is done under design, network hierarchy, and then we can right click the cog and add a new area. And under an area, once we define its parameters, we can give it a name. We can add a building with the building name, enter the address or the lat and long coordinates, which will place it on the map. Unfortunately, the map's not available right now because it's complaining that there's no internet reachability. Note that you cannot add a device to an area. It needs to be assigned to a building or a floor. You can add floors under buildings, and you can add buildings under areas, and you can add areas under areas. Anyway, our area of YouTube house has been created. So, while we're also on the screen, note that under the network settings device credentials, this is where you can define the username and password, and the SNMP read-write strings. We can do this at the global level, and click add, and we can populate the new data as required. Why this is important is because once the device has been, once the device has gone through the plug and play process, it's then handed off to the inventory. So if I go to provision, I've got the inventory here, and in here is my my devices, which are monitored via the Cisco DNA Centre, and the way they are monitored and data is collected from them is via SNMP walks and via the DNA Centre logging on with the credentials using Telnet or SSH. Therefore, this needs to be defined. If you don't, the plug and play process won't work. It'll kick up an error. Also, under the network settings, we can define some of the common attributes worthy of noting here, the syslog and SNMP server. If you tick these boxes, that's telling the system to provision the devices with DNA Centre as a syslog and SNMP server, and that's used to collect the contextual data from the device that can be passed to the assurance application, so you can have a look at the device health dashboards. We can cover that off in a subsequent video. There's other common attributes we can push down here: NTP servers, NetFlow, who's your TACAX server, but these are not part of the day zero push. They're more used for, or the information is pushed when you do provisioning. So this is like your day N configuration. So day zero is the initial configuration. The device is passed to the inventory, and then from there you can then provision the device to a site, and these site-specific parameters will be pushed to the device. Notice that at the global level, they can be overwritten at the lower tiers, where they will pick up the information from the top tier via hierarchy. Okay, so if I just go back to the workflow, just so that we know what we're looking at here. When I was to claim, the first thing was to assign it to a site. We have the YouTube headquarters site now available to us. And then the next step here would be the configuration. The two things would show up here. One would be the golden image, and two would be the configuration that's going to be applied to the device. Now the golden image, this is part of the swim process, where what we'll essentially do is when this device first calls in, we'll have a look and see what version the device is running, and then we'll compare that to the golden image, and if it's not the same, we'll offer an upgrade. Now this is in the design and under the image repository. And if we click on the global level, we can see for the ASR 1001 HX there isn't actually a golden image. Yes, there are images available. There's a 1693 and 1612 1A. So we are actually running 16.9.3 at the moment. If I was to assign this image to the ASR 1001, once this gets pushed into the image repository, we can then mark that as golden. And we'll see part of our workflow will be, we will be prompted to ask, do you want to upgrade to this version? We can mark it as golden. So that's the golden image that will show up. Let's see if I can open this up side by side just so we can speed things along. So back to plug and play, click on the router, we can claim, and we'll assign them to our site, YouTube. Make the screen a little bit bigger. And there is our golden image that we just marked. Now we need the configuration for the box, and this is done under the template editor. So what we need to do here is you can click here and create a new project. It's a custom project. It just creates a folder. I'm just going to call it folder, and that will be added in. And in here I can nest various different templates. Note, however, for this version of DNA Centre that the day 0 templates can only exist within the onboarding configuration folder. So if we were to create a template in this folder, it will not show up. So we'll create a new template to assign to our device, and we're going to call it YouTube. So 3 things are required for this. You need to give it a name, a project name is inherited, and you need to define the device or devices that it'll get assigned to. So you can do a search for them. In our case, it's the 1001HX. It does need to have an exact match here. I can select the top level of the tree, and it'll import, it'll apply to all its subordinate devices. I could also choose multiple device types, so the template doesn't have to be a one-to-one map to a certain device. And I can have a look here at what's been selected. So these routers are now the devices that are eligible for this template to be applied. So I go back to add the new template, and then finally I need to choose what version of code this is going to be. So these all need to match up when the device is being inspected for deployment of a potential template. And I'll select add. Now, over back on the left, I'll find my template, and I can just write in here the CLI that I require for that device. It's worth noting here that all the commands you write are assumed to be in configuration mode. That is, you've typed in conf t as opposed to being in privilege exec mode. If you do want to run privilege mode, such as a clear command like clear connections, you can still use the do clear and then whatever it is you want to run. So what I'll do is we'll just use a very basic template with a few variables. I have wrote one already to save some time, so I'm going to copy this across and put it in, and I'll explain the template. So the first thing we have here is we have the 2 pound signs preceding some text. So this is unparsed data. It's basically inline comments for the next operator to understand what it is you were trying to do. Because the more complex these templates get, the less self-explanatory they can become, much like any programming language. Well, not a programming language per se. This uses Apache VTL. It's that velocity template language, I believe it is. You can Google it for some online instructions on what to do, which is it's okay. Anyway, so what we've done here is we've defined a new loopback. The $sign indicates that this is a variable, so this is information that the user will need to input as they're going through the workflow onboarding the device. Again, for the domain name and for the RSA key. The reason I created 3 is to show what we can do in the form editor over to the side here. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to save this template. So we can go into this form editor, and this is fantastic. You can go in here, so you can rearrange which way these are presented to the user when they're provisioning the device. That's not a really cool thing about it, by the way. You can put in predefined entries for these variables, and you can put restrictions on them as well. So you can have it, some could be required, some are not required. So if they're required, it has to be filled in for the template to continue. You can have a default value. Sam.lab is my domain name. Lab, that was right. I thought it said lab. You can write some text to tell the user what to do. You know, please enter the domain. My R key seems to be playing up to date. Well, and my A apparently. And then you can put in restrictions. So we're going to say there's a maximum of 7 characters allowed for this domain name. Loopback IP address, well, we can say, well, actually, we know that should be entered in the format of an IP address. Therefore, the template will only accept a value that looks like and feels like an IP address. We'll put in a default value there. And the reason I had this RSA was to show we can have predefined values that a user can just select from a drop-down list. For example, we could have a single select option where you enter the values down here. So the key is what's presented to the user. So we could say weak key of 1024 and a strong key. It's my R key again, and again strong of 2048. And then you can see there's a drop down arrow here so the user can see strong and weak. So you can really restrict what they can and can't do. If I save this, there's a very other useful tool you can do to check your templates. The simulation editor you have over here on the right hand side. If we start a new simulation, I'm just going to call it Sam's test. We can see this is what the form will look like to the user, weak or strong, domain name. If I tried to add in a V on the end, there we are going over our 7 character limit, and then click run. It's coming up with an error saying this is over your limit, as we discussed. Same for the IP address. I'll add in a letter, which isn't part of an IP address. It'll kick up an error. Or if I add in a 4th number, you know, an IP address is 4 boxes of 1 or 3 digits. It's not going to work. So it's quite useful. So once I've put this information in, I can click run, and we'll see on the right hand side here we have the template preview. At the moment the variables are just shown as variables, but when we click run they should be populated with the data input entered in the form on the left hand side there. As we can see, that's come out absolutely stunning. So that now will be pushed in a top-down approach to the device during onboarding. Pretty cool, huh? So, so we'll go back to the, it likes us to save everything before we continue. Go back to the template itself. Although I have saved it, that's still not eligible to be pushed down to the box. We have to commit our changes, and that commits them to the current master version of the template. Now we have version 1. Okay, so we have now created our templates, we've created our sites, and we have marked our golden images. We now need to tell the DNA Centre that this template is valid for this particular site. How we do that is via our site profiles, our network profiles. So for network profiles, we have different types of profiles available. There's a routing profile, is the one we're going to be looking at today. Switching is quite similar. If you're familiar with routing, switching will be second nature. Wireless is where you, once you've created some of your wireless SSIDs, you can assign them to sites, similar to what we're doing here with device templates. I've not actually touched the EFT version of the firewall here. It's still early field trials, so or have a firewall to test at the moment, but we can look at that another day. So if we go into the routing profile, we'll give it a name. I'll call it YouTube. That makes sense to the site we're trying to map it to. You also add in here the service provider profile. So essentially, this is a service provider profile which shows how many queues the service provider will honor. Is it a 4 queue system? Is it 6? Is it 8 class? You can map that in here. For simplicity, I'm going to remove this, and we're just going to rely on our CLI templates for pushing the configuration to the device. We have to tell it what the device type is, which is an ASR 1000. Was it 1000? Yeah, 1001. That's it. Yeah. Just a brain moment there. And then select next. We can define some of our LAN configurations, such as our layer 2 settings, VLANs, layer 3, protocols running. But again, we're going to use the templates only for today, so I'm just going to skip this over. You know, it's nice to try these advanced features, but it's better to get the basics working first, prove the baseline, and then build on top of that. Otherwise, if you try and do everything at once, well, it falls to pieces. And then we can select the templates we're going to use. So this is our onboarding templates. So remember, these are the ones that are available underneath the onboarding profile. If we go back and have a look at that under the template editor, these are the ones available under the onboarding configuration, as opposed to the custom projects, not profiles. So we can see here, these ones, they don't map one-to-one. There's only 4 of these, whereas there's maybe 6 or 7 of these. That's because, for example, the IPsec one, which is not available here, is not of device type ASR 1001. So look, we can click on here, one device type selected. We can have a look what it is. That's eligible for a CSR 1000V. If it had ASR 1001 in there, it'd be eligible to go into our list here. So you start to see how this stuff all maps together. So it was the YouTube one we created. There's also the date end templates. So these are all of the templates in the template editor that are mapped to this device type. Interestingly, it's also all of the onboarding templates as well as the subsequent user-defined templates. But this isn't part of today. That's day n. That's done post day 0. And we can also go back and edit this profile later on, because it's the beautiful thing with day n is once you've done day 0, day n is day 1, it's day 2, it's day 3, it's day 5000. We can keep adding to this. Whereas day 1, or day 0, sorry, once it's deployed, it's deployed. To repush day 0, you've got to nuke the box and bring it back up. And then we click next, and this just gives us a summary of what's going to be pushed down. So the product type, the template name. It doesn't give us the details of the template here. And then we hit save. Okay, so now we have that template, which was this one here, I believe. We've got 2 YouTubes, that's confusing. I'm going to delete one and hope it's the right one. Must have been when I was testing it. That looks right. We can just click next through. That looks right. That looks right. All right, it's fine. It's good. That's the one. So the YouTube one, we then need to assign it to a site. So again, just to recap, when we go through the plug and play process, first thing you do is you select the site that the device belongs to. And based on that, it then pulls down a profile. And based on the profile, it knows which template to be pushed. So this is kind of the gluing the sites to the template. So we assign it to the site, and this was the YouTube house. Subordinates are picked up when you select the top level and hit save. Now, interesting thing to note here is that you cannot have a template type of routing assigned to a site where there's already a template type of routing. For example, this template type here of routing, if I try to assign it to the YouTube house where we've just assigned our current template, it will say you can only have one type assigned here. Do you want to use this one or your existing one? So just consider that when you're building this out. You can, however, assign different types of templates to the same site. So the wireless one can be assigned as well as the routing one to the same site. So these are the 5 different types we have. All 5 could be assigned to the same site. It kind of makes sense, really. So that concludes the baseline build. Now we need to go and provision our device. So we have a device here that's already called in and it's waiting to be onboarded. And this is the guy here sitting in the background. And this has happened because I've run this little script to wipe the existing configuration from the device. I'll post this in the comments actually of the video. And then I hit reload, and I'll just show you. No secret. We can see here, I've deleted the configuration from the box, and then reloaded the box. Yep, I would like to reload, and it's just come up. What's happened is it's come up. It's one of its front ports is connected to the pre-stage area. If you remember from the previous video, here, this front port is connected in. He's done a DHCP request. He's relayed it to the DHCP server. The DHCP server has offered him an IP address as well as the option 43, which says use the Cisco DNA Centre as your plug-and-play server. So then the plug-and-play process on this device is kicked in, established a HTTPS session with the plug-and-play server, and he's now sat waiting to be onboarded. So that is this state here. It's unclaimed. So what we can do is we can now click on the device, or you can click on the little tick box and actions and claim. Both take us to the same place. And we can hit claim, and then we go through our workflow. So the device name will be the host name that's given to the device. So we go plug and play test for YouTube, and today's date is the 30th of October, nearly Christmas, and it's test number 1. So the site, we're going to assign this to the YouTube house, YouTube headquarters. Notice here you can't assign it to YouTube house itself, and the reason for that is, remember, devices can be assigned to buildings or floors, not to sites. If there was multiple devices in here, we can tick this box to say, apply these attributes to subsequent devices, and then we click next. And now look at this, we've got the image. This is the golden image that will be pushed as the first thing that will happen, and then the second thing that will happen is this template will be applied. I actually don't want to push this image right now. One, it takes a lot of time, and two, I actually know there's a little bit of syntax difference between the version we're running and that one, and that can cause issues, which is a very good point to note. If you have in your templates syntax that's incorrect, so if I typed in IP domain name, when this template is being processed by the device, it's top down, so it will input line 3 correct, line 4 correct, 5 correct, 6 correct, 7 error, and it will stop. It's not great, but it is what it is. So what I strongly suggest you do is, when you've written your templates, when you run them through the simulation editor, grab the output of the template preview and paste it into a real box, and make sure it works. Make sure there's no CLI errors or anything like that, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. We're trying to do zero-touch deployment, but we have to touch the deployment before we can do zero-touch deployment. It's the chicken and the egg, or the egg and the chicken. Hey, anyway, right, so back to our test. So we've got our template for our YouTube, which is our routing profile, which is picked up based on the network profile we configured earlier. And if we hit next, it's then asking us to complete the variables. So remember, we went through and we had some default variables populated for us. We can change these as we see fit. We can change this to strong and give it a new domain name, cat.dog, and then click next. And what we'll see here is a summary. We can click on the device name and we can have a look actually at what has been created. So what's the CLI that will go to the box, and then actually we have this other day 0 configuration. This is the stuff that's pushed. If you recall, we talked about in the previous video, once the plug and play process is completed, it's handed off to the inventory app, which then manages the device. I think I mentioned it on this video earlier. and this information is required to manage that device going forward. So then we can just click claim. We would like to claim that. Yes, thank you very much. This periodically refreshes in the background. If you're impatient like me, you can hit refresh. But if we hop onto the box now, we'll see that it gets configured with our intent as input into the Cisco DNA Centre. So I'll fast forward the video here just to get through this. Okay, we can see now that the device went through the planned phase to the configuring and to the onboarding, sorry, and then provisioned. And if you notice down here, as it was going through, we saw the loopback interface came up. And if you remember, part of our template was to create a new loopback interface. So if we now jump into the box, hit return, we can see the host name has been pushed down as we defined in the plug and play workflow. Type in enable, we're asking for a password. There's no default password on this box, so it's been pushed by the inventory app. I type in my password. So if I have a look, show run interface loopback 0. Again, my R key, I apologize, it's a bit loose today. We can see this is the configuration we pushed down for this particular interface. What was the other thing? We also configured a domain name, I believe. Domain cat.dog, there we are. So, and then we also configured the SSH key, crypto keys, but that was it. But interestingly, there's the other stuff that was pushed down to the device. So do you remember, once it's provisioned, it's then pushed to the inventory, and it's the YouTube house, so it's the site it belongs to. This is now managed by DNA Centre, and it's managed because the DNA Centre can log onto the device, it can poll it via SNMP. So username and password were pushed down, and these, if you recall, were part of the design and the network settings and the device credentials, which is pretty cool. SNMP, let's have a look at that, include. So we've got, apart from all the traps which are pushed down, which I'll go over in 2 seconds and why they're there, we have hosts which are part of the network. Do you remember we talked about here we've got the SNMP servers. This is our user-defined one, 111.1.1.1.1, and then we've got use Cisco DNA Centre as an SNMP server, which is actually this IP address here. The same is true for the syslog. If I show run and then include logging, we have the user-defined one and our syslog server there. So yeah, so we have the network settings pushed down, and we've pushed down our day one stuff. So that essentially is that device now onboarded. If we go onto the inventory, we now have the device here. We can click on it. We can look at device details, so we can see the configuration of the device. It's been collected. We can look at the interfaces to see the state of the interfaces and the various details about the device. What's also happened is, because the design and the network settings under here, when we chose to use the DNA Centre as a syslog server and an SNMP server, that forms part of the collection process so that we can manage the overall state of our network. So now via assurance we can see network health and monitor the state of that particular device, but I'll let you explore that at your leisure. So that concludes the plug and play. I would like to just note also that if you want to do any subsequent changes now, that can be done via the day N. So in our templates, we do have some ASR1K templates. For example, we've got QoS, just a basic template for a QoS profile. So what we could do is we could go into our design network profiles, and under the routing profile, if I edit him, if I just skip through the steps up to the templates, custom configuration, find the day end templates, and I can find my QoS template. So this is day end now, and if I save this, there isn't actually any variables in that template, I believe. So it might be a bad example. There is no variables in that template. Just to show you, if I show run and then include, what have we got? Let's just say class. So it grows on your hands, did it again there. You can see there are no class maps currently defined. So back to our device. So day one is around provisioning. So if I go on to the device itself in the inventory, if I actions, and then if I go to provision, so he is already assigned to a site. That's done as part of the onboarding. I can then provision the device. And what this does is this pushes down the site-specific details as per the network settings in the design page, as well as any subsequent templates. Any configurations, so this is our custom configurations, so there's no onboarding because that's part of day 0, and the day end templates, there's a QoS one, which has no parameters or variables for us to update. If I click next, and then if I go on to deploy, you can schedule the job for later on, or you can run it right away. And then it will go through the process, pending provisioning, and we can see here the device is logged on, complaining about some things not being defined. Hit refresh, configuring, so we can see here. It's useful sometimes. You can turn on like the archive feature on the router, and then it'll give you output to the console to say what commands are being typed by DNA Centre. Success. I just hit up, show run, include class. Boom, there's my class maps. Those class maps are per the course profile. If I do show policy map, you can see I've got my different policy maps as per the template that was applied. So it's quite powerful. It's quite powerful. There's much more you can do with templates. You can have multiple individual templates, and then you can create composite templates, and then have the individual templates nested within them. Again, I'll cover that off in a more advanced video. For now, the main goal was to cover off plug and play. So if I go back to our PowerPoint, if I can get rid of this pen. So if you recall, we went to the plug and play screen, we claimed the device, or we added a new device anticipating its arrival. Then through the workflow, we assigned the device to the site, which we created under the design workflow. That site then tied down to a profile, and the network profile had that site selected. The network profile also had a day 0 template assigned to it, and that day 0 template is configured under the onboarding configuration, and then you write the configuration and its variables within the template editor, not forgetting to commit them. Okay, thank you, and I hope you look forward to the next video, which will be on more advanced templating features we can use.